know what a Mii is, those little customizable created characters you can force into various types of lethal combat. And of course, given said customizability, you can design these guys in any way you like, for better or worse. Anyways, it's been 2 whole years since I've created a genuine Mii, and let's just say, after looking back at them one day, they were definitely products of their time. Like, they're still kind of funny, but like, come on, 0 punchlines found. But they weren't fully realized, due to the limitations on the Switch's Mii Maker. So I decided to draw 3 depictions of what I thought my Miis would look like without limitations. Hey, this is Valis Red, and I read you my horrifying Miis. And for those who ask, why didn't I just use the Utopia Mii Maker on the Switch? You're boring. You're boring me. Like, yeah, I know I can do that, but it's a different media. That's like the entire point of the video. Disclaimer, most of my Miis were made during the heyday of Smash Ultimate, and all the Miis I want to draw today are parodies of characters from that roster that didn't have the best of times in either of the bad endings from the World of Light campaign. Whether they've been turned evil, fused into horrifying abominations for totally non-storage space related reasons, were completely normal, or turned into whatever this is. The first man in our House of Horrors is Lugman, one of the first Miis I made in the series, and the most simple to explain. He's just a really buff, really evil Luigi inspired by Ganondorf. It's not the most innovative of ideas, but these Miis were mostly just gags made in 5 minutes around 2018, so it checks out. First I wanted to get a hold on the face, since that's like 90% of the Mii, but I struggled a bit creating the Mii's features, while making the face actually comparable to Luigi. I gave him a huge upper body, and applied some clothing, which was an exaggeration of Luigi's already existing clothes. After deciding how I wanted the body to be shaped, making the top of the body a little bit rounder, I tore up the clothes a little bit more into this weird, tight, I don't know how to explain it, but my intention was to put on the weird, gooey things that Darkon has, but I abandoned that idea quickly. While doing this, I redefined how the stance and the facial expression were going to work, which was supposed to be as menacing as it was goofy. Next, to resolve the uncomfortableness I talked about with the face, I tried to simplify everything and referred to Luigi a little bit more in my proportions. Turning the complicated tears into star shapes so they would read a little bit better, adding Luigi's gloves, and overall streamlining the overalls. Finally, closing out the rough sketch, I added Luigi's mustache back because he just didn't look like Luigi without it. I ripped all the colors straight from Luigi with a few creative liberties, creating my own red and creating my own light blue, referencing the Mario and Luigi series. This is Lugman. Final thoughts? Though originally I wanted to make him look more wacky like Waluigi, this variation seems more cold and calculated, which I find oddly fitting. It's also a part of the reason why I removed the mouth. Overall, I'm happy with this, especially with the lighting, even though it makes no sense, but it kinda looks cool. Next is Lumus, the unfortunate fusion between Lucina and Dark Samus, and a naming scheme that I might want to change for several reasons, but mostly because my fusion name is kinda spelled wrong, if you can't tell. I don't know if I made the name like that because I just felt like being stupid, or if I thought the name just sounded better. I mean, it does sound better, but never mind. Back to the drawing board. My first job was to design the upper body, namely the head and the armor, since I knew I wanted all the weight on the character to be on the top half, but did not know how to execute it at the time. Contrary to the upper body, I knew I wanted the pose to 1. Utilize the sword, and 2. Be composed as well as floaty. I was uncomfortable with the current upper half, so I reworked the face using Lucina's Fire Emblem Engagement. Afterwards, I roughed out the details of the sword and the clothing. It was sort of a combination of Lucina's fabric pieces and Dark Samus' armor bits. Oh, and here's the fun coloring part where everything glows. Ironically enough, the coloring was probably one of the hardest parts of the drawing because both of these losers are blue and only blue! Seriously, Lucina looks like she's one color, but there's like 6 to 7 blues in there. And I can't just make the whole thing blue, which is why I turned Lucina's cape full red instead of half red. Name change and all, this is Dark Lumus. I think it's a solid design, but it's pretty hard to mess up an easy design concept such as make future swordswoman look more futuristic. The emotion of this fighter came out how I wanted it to, but if anything were to change per my request, I wish I would have spent a little more time with the lighting. Our last subject for today is Solid Snake and Villager, creating Villa Snake. As much as I don't like Villager and Solid Snake being that closely associated with each other, I can't lie, I'm interested. This one was a tad tough in that both of our subjects are the exact opposite of each other. I mean, it's either a snake head on a villager body or a villager head on a snake body, and neither of those options are good. This one's gonna turn out to be a nightmare. But in the end, I started with villagers' body proportions because at least villagers are customizable, so it makes some sense. And of course, since the above, posing this thing is gonna take a time and a half.
During the posing session, everything felt too jovial for Snake, but also too cool for Villager. After I added in the slingshot though, everything started making sense.
Equally troubling, Villager was pretty plain as far as characters go, so there wasn't much for me to add on his side of the detail. But I didn't want to fall into making this character Solid Snake but a Villager, so I leaned into this nature survivalist type design. Enter Mayor Solid. Yes, that's the best name I could come up with. And no, I'm not changing the name. I mean, he was either that or Snakeager or Vil Ache. There's no good in this. I mean, design-wise, I like the shape, but I probably should have sat on the survivalist vibe a little bit more than I did. The colors were fun to work with, though.
Well, we're done. It's over. I initially thought these were going to turn out gross, you know, abominations and such. And I tried at some point, but being me, I just had to make them a little bit cool. But what do you think about these guys? Or even which one was your favorite in general? Maybe I was wrong and maybe they're all gross, but in terms of the challenge, that's kind of tomato-tomato. They kind of achieved the same thing. Anyways, I've been Vile, and see yous.